Pete Hegseth was speaking. He does his normal thing where he tells these stories and he thinks this is what Americans are jazzed about.
I did the same with his boss, a colonel with a heart the size of Texas and a beautiful deployment mustache to match. I witnessed lethality. I met a junior airman as the sun was going down and a chill was setting on the tarmac, who, when asked what they needed, she simply looked up at me with a sly smile on her face and said, "More bombs, sir, and bigger bombs. We will happily oblige her."
Pete Hegseth was at this press conference telling this story, and he thinks it's some kind of, poetic approach to talking about murder, mass murder, and warmongering. I saw this junior airman, and the sun was setting. She looked up with a sly smile and said, "Let's murder some more people, Pete." Why is that an appealing story? Why does he think Americans who are struggling with, first off, higher costs on everything, sending off tens of thousands of their sons, daughters, cousins, parents, brothers, and sisters off to fight in this war for Donald Trump's ego? Why does he think that's going to get people to get jazzed up about dying for him? Why does he think telling a story about more bombs, sir? I need more bombs. He was getting asked a whole bunch of questions about this war. And, if it wasn't written down on his pre-written poems about murder and mass death that he's looking to share with everyone, he's not always ready for it.
The president wrote yesterday that the U.S. might destroy Iran's electricity generating plants and oil wells. Those are his words before ending this operation. Is there a way to do either of those things without seriously jeopardizing or seriously harming civilians?
So on the talks, I can tell you, having been with Steve and Jared and the vice president and Marco and many others yesterday, they are very real. They are ongoing. They're active and I think gaining strength. And we appreciate that. As I said in my remarks, we would much prefer to get a deal. If Iran was willing to relinquish material they have and ambitions they have, open this, great. That's the goal. We don't want to have to do more militarily than we have to. But I didn't mean it flippantly when I said, in the meantime, we'll negotiate with bombs. Our job is to ensure that we compel Iran to realize that this new regime, this regime in charge, is in a better place if they make that deal. And so we'll continue. We're working hand in hand, but the primary effort is a deal. We want that deal to be accomplished if at all possible. If not, then we're prepared to continue.
Pete Hegseth was asked about all those parameters, but also specifically about the potential war crimes as Donald Trump continues to threaten to take out these energy resources in the country that, of course, would harm so many people there, because he doesn't care. His mindset, and so is Pete Hegseth, since he completely ignored that question about how are you going to pull this off without committing some war crimes? These are war crimes that you guys keep bragging about, but they feel they can commit war crimes because, he's been committing war crimes since he was blowing up ships in the Caribbean, and everyone said, those are war crimes. And he said, no, it's not. I'm going to do what I want. So why would he answer that question? We let him get away with it that time, so he thinks he can continue to get away with it because, people weren't sick of it yet for some reason. They're so sick of it now, they're willing to ask dumb Caroline Levitt the same question.
The president posted this morning about, his threat that on leaving Iran, he said we might blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, Harg Island, and possibly all desalinization plants. Under international law, striking civilian infrastructure like that is generally prohibited. Why is the president threatening what would amount to potentially a war crime with the U.S. military? And how do you square that with the administration repeatedly saying that the U.S. does not target civilians?
Look, the president has made it quite clear to the Iranian regime at this moment in time, as evidenced by the statement that you just read, that their best move is to make a deal, or else the United States Armed Forces has capabilities beyond their wildest imagination, and the president is not afraid to use them. That's not what I said, Garrett. And you're saying saying the word potential for a reason, because I'm sure some experts are telling you that in your ear to try to ask me that question. Of course, this administration and the United States Armed Forces will always act within the confines of the law. But with respect to achieving the full objectives of Operation Epic Fury, President Trump is going to move forward unabated, and he expects the Iranian regime to make a deal with the administration.
To that end, which of those objectives would destroying a desalinization plant most help?
Haley, go ahead.
When Caroline Levitt has been cornered, and it was a very bad answer on their response and their plan, apparently, to continue with war crimes, she has nothing to say, but of course we will. Based off of what? I feel like the questions need to be formulated in a certain way where why would we assume that, of course, you're not going to continue with, war crimes when you've already committed multiple war crimes? Why would we believe that? In fact, say it in a way that the Fox News folks always said it when they're not right. The majority of American citizens don't believe you. The American people don't believe you. They don't trust you. They don't want to do what is that you're doing. Why do you keep doing it then? Stop asking them. It's like, oh, do you think it's going to be war crimes? She's going to say, of course, they're not committing war crimes as they commit war crimes because they're war criminals. So maybe this gets a little bit closer because Pete Hegseth, again, had to take some questions that apparently didn't come in the form of a poem that somebody wrote for him back at the Department of War offices. They asked him specifically about his base, the MAGA base, who increasingly is tired of this.
I don't understand why the base, which they have already, they understand, wouldn't have faith in his ability to execute on this. Look at his track record of pursuing peace through strength, America first outcomes. What he's simply saying, and it's exactly true, and I've said from this podium too, we're not going to foreclose any option. You can't fight and win a war if you tell your adversary what you are willing to do or what you are not willing to do, to include boots on the ground. Our adversary right now thinks there are 15 different ways we could come at them with boots on the ground. And guess what? There are. So if we needed to, we could execute those options on behalf of the President of the United States and this department. Or maybe we don't have to use them at all. Maybe negotiations work, or maybe there's a different approach. But the point is to be unpredictable in that. Certainly not let anybody know what you're willing to do or not do.
Pete Hegseth is so stupid. He thinks that talking about, to his base, who's upset and concerned about boots on the ground, which are obviously happening, he thinks that that's giving away the game on whether or not they're going to send a bunch of troops when they've got thousands of troops headed to Iran right now. And we've got thousands of troops that are there because they were heading there. Hey, Pete, I feel like the game has already been given up. I feel like your dumb president keeps talking about how he's willing to do all these things and send boots on the ground because he's stuck, because he had no idea that the Strait of Hormuz would be blocked. He had no idea that neighboring countries would be bombed by Iran. He knew nothing. He's trying to figure out why the base would be so upset about it. I can't figure out why the base would be concerned anyway. Let me give you a really, really good reason why the base might be concerned about who's in charge, at least who you guys say is in charge, and who has all these plans.
You have to see it. It's very cool. Missiles launched, missiles launched, missiles launching. They're launching. Okay, we're ready. 101 missiles coming at them. All right, we have to have like 11 seconds to make a determination. Then at 7 seconds, fire, fire, fire. It's the most unbelievable thing. Fire, boom, fire, boom. One at a time, just knocked them out like they were nothing. Genius. It's like unbelievable.
Fire, boom, fire, boom, fire, boom. It's genius. It's amazing. It's crazy. We just kill. Boom, fire, 7 seconds. Boom, pow, boom, boom. What? I think we already know who this guy is. I think we already know that he's a 79-year-old man and with a 6-year-old's brain. I'm sorry, a 3-year-old's brain and a dumb 3-year-old's brain. Walk around talking about how amazing it is. It's amazing stuff. And he says this in front of podiums, in front of cameras, and he thinks people are going to see that and go, I feel great about this guy running this country. I feel great about this guy running this war, who, again, clearly told everyone, I have no idea what I'm doing. There's a Financial Times, I believe he works for Financial Times, reporter, Edward Luce. And he says he spoke to Donald Trump about his plans in this war. It's amazing. It's amazing. Listen to what Edward Luce says his conversations with Donald Trump are about his plans as they go to try and do this weird thing, take Iran's oil.
Well, this is the second time I've called him and he's picked up on first ring. Both times, interestingly, late Sunday afternoon, and he's been apparently wandering around Mar-a-Lago with his cell phone and picked up and was happy to chat. Kind of little bit unnerving shoot the breeze about, look, should we take the oil? Should we grab Kharg Island? And I said, well, that's not really for me to say, Mr. President. What do you think? What are you planning to do? You have to sort of pinch yourself that this is the commander-in-chief of the world's, superpower, because his thoughts are all over the place. So he wants to take Iran's oil, whatever that means. I said, would that mean taking Kharg Island, which is the island 15 miles off the Iranian coastline where 90% of Iranian oil exports go, because it's got deep ports. And he said, yeah, we could take Kharg Island, and we could not take Kharg Island, but it doesn't have too many defenses. So we'd be happy to do that. I did ask him about the fact that you've got Army Rangers, Delta Forces, 82nd Airborne Marines. You've got these kinds of commando capabilities being moved to the region. Are you planning to use them? And he wouldn't give specifics, but he seemed pretty confident that Kharg Island could easily be taken, which is not necessarily the expert view.
Edward Luce there talked about how anytime he calls Donald Trump, he's hanging out at Mar-a-Lago, quick to answer the phone, to ask him questions like, what do you think we should do? I think we can take Kharg Island. Sure, boots on the ground. Why not? It's easy. They barely have any defenses. It'll be so simple. We'll be out of there in 3 hours. He thinks, Pete Hegseth, just a minute ago, as I just played for you guys, talked about how we're not going to give up our positions. We're not going to tell you what we're going to do, because that will destroy our mission, the secrecy of our mission. When Donald Trump is on the phone with reporters talking about, what do you think we should do? Sure, let's take it. Sure, maybe we will take it. Maybe we won't take it. Who cares? The guy is loose-lipped, and he'll tell you anything that you want as long as you say, you know what, Donald Trump, you're a smart guy. I love what you're doing in Iran. He'd be like, really? Let me tell you everything that I'm going to do. Let me show you some classified information, which he's also done, because someone scratched him under his loose chin and said, man, you're a really smart guy. But let me let Edward Luce finish here in talking about what Donald Trump's plans are.
But at the same time, he said that the negotiations between the US and Iran via emissaries, chiefly Pakistan, were going ahead, and that he was confident there could be a deal. So, I mean, this wasn't an entirely consistent theme. He said, we're talking every day, constantly to Iran. I said, has Steve Witkoff, spoken directly to people in the Iranian government? And he kind of sidestepped the question and used the term emissaries. My overall takeaway is that right now, Trump's got nothing new to get him out of this war or to win it. There are speculations about possible commando raids into Isfahan to seize the enriched uranium, but these would be extremely dangerous operations that would take days, possibly weeks, to secure this highly fissile material, and would involve undoubted American bloodshed. So that's what you'd call a Hail Mary option in American football. But in terms of an actual plan to end the war, I didn't finish this call feeling very confident that Trump had one.
He didn't feel very confident. Donald Trump doesn't feel very confident that he has a plan to end this war either, because he hasn't given any plan of how he's going to end this war. Neither has Pete Hegseth. Neither has Lindsey Graham, as he hangs around in Disney. None of these folks have any plans for it. What they had a plan for, and I'll say it again, their only plan was to kill enough people, think they could intimidate enough people so that those that are left will be walking on their hands and knees begging for any kind of relief from the murder. That's what the plan was. And they thought the American citizens would be running in the streets, celebrating, shooting off fireworks about, man, you're killing everybody. That's great. You bombed a little girl's school. That's wonderful. We love you so much, Pete. That's what they think.